Yo, YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy Salvation Elite. We are back with our video, guys. Guys, what in the world, man? CDL Florida, the Mutineers homestand was this weekend. Absolute madness. So many unexpected outcomes, so many upsets and crazy round 11s. This was a really fun event, and I am excited to talk about it with you guys. So, of course, without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's go. Wow. So, obviously, it was just an absolutely insane weekend filled with like tons of action and a lot of surprises. Like I said, I mean, basically, you could debate 3 of the bottom teams in the tournament ended up making the semifinals, which was absolute madness. I mean, Toronto really surprised us. OpTic Gaming with Money CHEEN, the new roster, coming out and making the grand finals. And the New York Subliners once again putting on a show. I mean, there was just a ton to unpack from this weekend. So basically out of the gate, I mean, FaZe looked fantastic. Paris looked okay at best. This was the first game of the weekend. But I mean, going into this weekend, I had predicted FaZe as the champion. You know, subtle flex. But they looked fantastic off the rep, and I was feeling pretty good about that. They 3-1 Paris. In the second match of the day was probably one of the most interesting ones of the whole event. It went down to a Game 5, London versus OpTic Gaming. Crazy enough, OpTic Gaming, who would end up looking really good later on in this tournament, took the L in this one, lost on Piccadilly 6-4, map 5 to the Royal Ravens, which set up a FaZe London match on Saturday. But in that Game 5, there was some absolute madness. Snipes with Wuskins and Dashy. It was truly one of like the coolest like snipe ops of the whole year so far.
Yeah. This time it hits.
He's able to find it, man.
Bye, Scraps.
Oh, just keep going.
That's Shotty. Sorry, that's Shotty. Dashy a chance again. I don't know if you want to try. Don't try it. Gonna hop it. Wuskin just has to hit one shot, and it's an easy one. It's an easy one.
On offenses, but how long can they do it for?
There's the shot from Wuskin. Another.
This time they are like tripling up bookstore. But Jur gets in again, able to take down Dashy. Wuskin with a first blood.
Wow!
Wuskin with another one.
Welcome to the CDL.
It kind of set the pace for how fun of an event this would be and how many awesome search and destroys we would see. I mean, they were literally going back and forth every single round. It felt like it was just a crazy fun map to watch. But then we had our first big surprise of the event. Toronto took down the New York Subliners in a 3-1 series, which was, I mean, like, incredibly surprising. Going into the weekend, no one really expected that much from Toronto. We did hear that they were improving from a lot of the pro teams. Like, oh yeah, they're making some steps forward. Like, they've been a pretty solid team, but they were in a pretty tough group. And against New York, who, you know, looked really good in the last event, nobody expected Toronto to come out and surprise them like they did here. But overall, was really impressed early on with Toronto, and that would only continue. The Subliners, on the other hand, though, I mean, this was a surprise to be sure, but moving forward, it would only become more surprising as the tournament moved along. So a little teaser for what comes ahead. So on the final match of Friday, the Mutineers played the Rokkr, and I mean, we all thought this was going to be a pretty close game. The Mutineers looked fantastic, obviously coming off a championship win. They got 3-0'd by the Rokkr. The Ramaz's hardpoint was pretty close and the Dom was pretty close, but the Rokkr looked like the significantly better team in this series. And so moving forward in the tournament, we all thought the Rokkr were in a pretty good spot to move on and potentially play in the championship, but things did not go their way, to say the least. Before we got to see the Rokkr play again, we got to witness the greatest hardpoint in COD history, FaZe versus London. So this was kind of the big drama of the tournament. So basically, Wuskins, for the first map on Hackney Dom, wasn't back to his station in time for the start or whatever it was, and they started the map without Wuskins at his station, which was so weird. Like, how does that even happen? Supposedly they said that they asked him multiple times to get back, but he was gone filling his water bottle, which he tweeted about. Basically, London just stood at the back of the map and waited it out till it was like basically 100-0. But by the time Scraps got back, they were asking for a restart, and they didn't get a restart. So FaZe ended up dominating the map, and everyone was confused, like, what in the world? Why wasn't there a restart? Why didn't it get replayed? London kind of feels like they got the short end of the stick there. They ended up making it a series, but they ended up losing 3-1. It really sucks. They didn't get a fair shake in the matchup at all. But at the end of the day, in the other maps, FaZe looked like the significantly better team overall. This was the next massive surprise of the tournament. The Minnesota Rokkr fell 3-1 to the Toronto Ultra, and it wasn't that close. The Rokkr took the S&D on Piccadilly, but they lost all the other 3 maps, and the Ramazza hardpoint was nearly a 100-point club. It was 250 to 109. Just like a really just jarring performance from the Rokkr. It seemed like they lost. They got away from the fundamentals they've been using this whole year. They've been the most fundamental team in most game modes, especially hardpoint this year, and they dropped both hardpoints to Toronto, which when you compare the slang power on those teams, I mean, Methods was playing fantastic this tournament, and as a whole, the team just felt like it was meshing together in the right positions, playing very, very well. I thought the Hackney Dom was a really great performance from Toronto in that series. I mean, with the Rokkr, that's a huge red flag when you're losing a hard point like that. It definitely made everybody a little worried about how they might perform in their elimination match versus New York. So after we saw OpTic struggle against London, OpTic comes out to play the other Europeans, Paris, and they take care of business. They wiped the floor with them 3-0, and OpTic looked amazing, and you're like, okay, all right, this might be where OpTic can find some groove, and that's basically exactly what happened. We'll talk more about them in a bit, but like, it was a fantastic performance from them and really disappointing from Paris. Basically, their whole roster played really poorly the whole weekend. It didn't feel like they had a collective strategy. Things weren't working for them. They weren't winning their gunfights, and they don't look like a great team right now. So, moving on into the elimination match, Mutineers versus Subliners. The Mutineers looked horrible. I mean, Havoc, Mox, and Frosty struggled in this event. Skies and Pharaoh got their work in, but the middle 3 definitely struggled. It looked like the Mutineers of a few weeks ago, pre-championships. They weren't winning their gunfights. They were losing the power positions. They weren't controlling the maps at all, and it was not going their way. The pivotal moment in this series was the round 11 on Ramazza. You know how much I love me some round 11s, so let's check it out.
So we're out of Mission Impossible movies. We've run out of references here. We're now making
the final movie. Mutineers versus Subliners head-to-head. Max, Zuma, uh-oh, Miles, he's all falling apart. They were 4-0 up.
Dude, Zuma found 2 right off the rip. He and Mac, they read the play towards A perfectly. Wait, Skies is back. What? It's finished. What a Subliners.
Outside of the S&D, New York looked like the far superior team, both in Dom and in Hardpoint. I mean, the competition has never been higher now with OpTic and the New York Subliners finding their grooves. The league is going to be crazy from here on out with how competitive this is going to be, and this was a true showing of that. So then again, in the next match, OpTic had a rematch versus the London Royal Ravens, who they lost to 3-2. And this time around, there was no BS. There was nothing that stopped them here. A hot 3-0 from OpTic Gaming. Looked fantastic, and at that point, we're all like, oh no. OpTic might be able to win this. We'll see what happens. You know, that was kind of the thought after that game, like, wow, all right. OpTic is legit. Again, man, London, it always feels like they're so close. It feels like they're just missing a piece. Things just aren't fully falling into place for them. If maybe falls in for a map or a sequence or a few hills or one half of Dom or something like that, but they're just not able to piece it together at this point for more than one series at a time, it seems like. And I'm really, really excited and waiting to see if London can make something happen in that regard, because I know they have the potential to be an incredible team, but it's just not there yet. So then the Subliners played the Rokkr, and this, I don't know how much closer of a series you can get, man. This was insane, all right? On Ramazza, it came down to the end. It was absolutely nuts. 250, 249. Madness. Let's check it out.
Do his thing just to get these players in and out. He knew he had to contest for just a moment. Someone for the Subliners has to get in, but if they get dealt with too quickly, it's got to be Mac. He's in the hill, but I don't know if it's for long enough. I don't think the tick will actually go through. Mac win big.
249, 221. New York have the rotation. Minnesota Rokkr need 1 point. That is all they need. New York need to hold. Mac was the hero player right there to make sure he got that final contest. But is there anyone from Minnesota now that could spoil the party of New York? Well, Salt hit the flank. That's kill number 24 for him. Can he find Mac as well? Unfortunately, the answer is no. New York hit 241. Asim has to go big. He drops. There's only going to be one more player in position to even get there. He's unsuccessful. New York Subliners. What a comeback. What a steal. What a map number 1.
I mean, for the Rokkr, that was a close one, but it just got worse. This could not be more demoralizing. They lost round after round that they shouldn't have lost, and then Temp pulls off an absolute miracle.
Down Mac, and well, there's going to be a free kill for Alex. That's number 3 this round. Leaves Temp and is lonesome for the 1v4. The big problem, Minnesota Rokkr know exactly where he is, but Temp will find the first pick. No bomb planted just yet. Makes things maybe a little interesting. 1 versus 3. Smoke out top window. Another freebie for Temp. If you keep trying to plant, Temp keeps gonna kill you. You gotta make sure that you have that top window covered. You rarely see 1v4s, but Temp could be about to produce something special as long as he doesn't get baited here into going straight through the door. Both players covering. Temp's shut down corner. I can't believe it. 1v4 on the cards. All down to Assault. I think Temp may have just got the audio cue. He so desperately needs the double punch, Temp, for the 1 versus 4.
Like, ridiculous, all right? And then it gets worse. I mean, it goes down to round 11, and then this happens.
By the time they go to check it, New York had already pretty much taken complete site control. But either way, round 11, Subliners back on offense, and well, this time it might be the Drax push.
Another close game, and New York looking to try and find a first blood, and it's Zuma again that finds the opening, but there's a player from Minnesota right behind it. Scott Rex. He found one, a team kill through the smoke, through the chaos. Attach also drops. Mac trades it out, and you blink, and you have a 2v2. Mech and accuracy for the New York Subliners versus Assault and Silly for Minnesota Rokkr, and Silly's put himself in a great position. He may just be able to find, but no! Maybe a bit premature on his shots, and now all of a sudden he's in a spot of bother. Both players from New York are going to try and chase him down. Silly has to try and pre-fire. Mac wants to go for the throat, gets the kill, and now Assault, can he make up for the mistake from last round? He finds himself in a 1 versus 2 with 40 seconds on the clock, and unfortunately for him, he's been sniffed out. New York do it again, this time in game 2. They take the round 11. They go 2-0 up in the series.
They lose the round 11, puts them down 2-0. It couldn't be closer, 2 maps back to back, and then they go play a Dom and they end up losing it. So they get 3-0'd in an incredibly close series. The Dom was close as well. It was 159-150 on Gunrunner. Like, man, it just sucks for the Rokkr. I don't think you can tilt too much after this performance, even though this was by no means the weekend they wanted to have. They looked really, really bad at points and then lose some close matches. That is tough for any team. I mean, GodRx was not the normal GodRx. From past events, he wasn't the dominant force he normally was. A Sim was struggling even more than normal, and the slaying power just wasn't there like they normally would have. All of that combined was a big problem for the Rokkr, and that's why they saw an early exit from the tournament. So moving on to the semifinals championship Sunday, things were crazy. This might have been the wildest, or one of the wildest championship Sundays of all time, with how many close maps and round 11s and everything else, big moments there were as a whole. It was a ton of fun. So this Toronto versus LA OpTic series was nuts. I mean, it went game 5 and the Dom came down. Let's just say the Dom and an S&D that was round 11 came down to the same amount of points. So at this point, it was 1-1 in the series. This is a big time map to sway the momentum, and this is what goes down.
They've managed to grab it. They've got it. However, is their time on the clock here. A triple cap is going down. The neutralization, it was brought back. TJ jumping on it. And I tell you what, the clock is going to come into play. But I'm not sure if they're going to get enough points. 8 seconds on the clock. 137 to 141. Maths is hard at this stage. But as the time ticks away, Toronto jump on the flag at the very last second. And with that said, they get 1 point at the end. 1 point is how they do it. 1 point is how they close it out. And Toronto,
just complete madness. I mean, the ending was absolutely ridiculous. Like, it was just flood after flood towards that C flag. All they needed was to neutralize it for an extra second or two, and OpTic would have at least tied, and instead Toronto comes out on top. Insane stuff from Toronto, and the series only got better from here. So the hard point on Gunrunner was back and forth. OpTic just played the last few rotations a lot better than Toronto, which got him the dub. And then we headed into Arklov Search and Destroy, round 11 for the series to head to the grand finals, and it was an epic one.
Barrier for Ultra. Now they have to go and play grab on that one, but Metals, the assassin, comes in from behind, finds that first under TJ, and now 30 seconds remain. Dead Silence activated above him, and oh, from above, Quavo, Metal gets a kill again. Metals can't quite find the third there of the round. A Slasher keeps his team in this one. Methods, it all falls down to you, and that's it! For the first time in the CDL, OpTic Gaming are going to the finals.
I mean, just from the face cams, you can see how much that meant to both of those teams. Obviously, it was huge for the standings in the CDL. Both of these guys need these points desperately. It unfortunately didn't work out for Toronto. Slasher clutched it up at the end, but it was just fantastic stuff from OpTic, punching their ticket to the grand finals. I mean, Toronto, this is beyond good news from Toronto. Exactly what we as viewers needed to see to expect something from Toronto moving forward. I think they finally found their starting 5. It took them, 4 months with their 10-man roster to figure out who their solid starting 5 is, but I would expect them to stick with this roster for a while moving forward now. I mean, Cammy, Metals, Methods, Bance, and Classic all had their moments during the series, and I mean, Methods really did stand out as the man throughout the weekend. So here comes Atlanta and New York. Obviously, FaZe had something to prove. I mean, this was a tournament, this was kind of my thought going into this tournament, was if their role changed, which they switched Major Maniac from being the main AR to Cellium, if that was going to work, it was going to work in a big way, and they're going to be hard to beat. And it seemed like it kind of came to fruition here, but New York took them to the wire. In map 4, there was an absolutely ridiculous hard point. I mean, New York, I don't know how in the world they won this thing. The comebacks on Hackney are always just madness, and this one was no different. Let's check it out.
Out of it.
On the
Keep
same
this
hard
alive.
point,
Yeah,
man.
same
On the
hard
same
point. That's a
hard point.
frustrating one. Desu, Priest again flies through, wins a big one-on-one against Zuma. He's in the hill now. They just need 5 seconds inside a warehouse. Can he win another one? He does onto attach, trying to just stay down. Are we going to a game 5? Are we? Accuracy. It's his turn with the M4. He
They're in.
slides in.
They're in.
Only 10 more
They're in.
seconds now. They have this set up. The trophy's down.
247, 245. Subliners doing everything they can to hold. They only need a couple more seconds, but FaZe comes storming in. Can FaZe get it done? They can't break. Subliners hold, and that is a map 5 for...
So things you love to see from the Subliners there. Mac Melts has been an absolute monster for them. Exactly what they needed. The extra slaying power, pushing the pace, the super aggro SMG that they needed on that map to pair with their boys they've already got, and it's working for them, man. They look miles better than they did just a few weeks ago with Mac now in the lineup, and it's been a blast watching them and seeing them improve. But at the end of the day, FaZe clutched up on Gunrunner. They're so hard to beat on Gunrunner, man. When FaZe looks good, they look incredible, and at no point in that map did I feel like FaZe was going to lose. They just had it locked up the whole time, seemingly. So that set up the grand finals match, FaZe versus OpTic. Man, a legendary rivalry in the COD scene. Obviously felt a lot different than it did back like in AW, back when those rivalries were hot. But even though it didn't go to a game 5, it was a really close series. The first hardpoint was on Azhir Cave, and OpTic took Azhir Cave off FaZe. Obviously, FaZe has been dominant on Azhir, but OpTic Gaming came out and showed their improvement right there. And what's so surprising about OpTic's improvement is, like, Chino, you know, replaced JCap, but statistically Chino was no better than JCap was in the past. But how their roles play out on the team, Chino's just the slow AR. They let Slasher, they let Dashy fly around the map a little bit more, gives them a little bit more freedom, and it seemingly made a big time difference in how they play the game. And of course, Chino's the vibes, man. He's just a good time, and maybe that makes a difference as well. Map 2, Atlanta versus OpTic, the Dashy Simp sniping duel was on, and it came down to a round 11. So let's check some of that out.
Whoa, what a play. First blood. Oh, it's a direct trade. Couldn't really sum up that sniper fight any better if you tried. Both players drop in what has been an unreal game 2. TJ finds the pick. Of course, this could potentially put OpTic Gaming LA 2-0 up in the Florida home series final. BZ shuts down Chino, though. All of a sudden, you've got yourself a 3v3. Too much information and no one mid-map unless you want to try and maybe bait out a rotation towards B. Well, that's going to put a stop to any rotation as the teammate comes through. That's unfortunate, but luckily, the trade's in their favor. Now it's Cellium. The 1 versus 2. TJ and Slasher up. Slasher spotted, tagged up. Good read from Cellium, but can't find either kill. And with 15 seconds, Slasher has to plant the bomb. Cellium in position to make a huge play here for Atlanta FaZe. Bomb planted, Slasher down, 1v1. Cellium tagged up, plays his life so very well. DJ had a great 1v1 clutch in this exact scenario earlier on today. Can he produce the goods once again? Cellium with 30 seconds left. DJ spots him cross. Now Cellium has the information he needs. Time ticking. Players tagged. And Cellium gets the pick! Cellium! A huge clutch from him!
Absolutely wild. I mean, the trade, they trade with each other. They killed each other, Simp and Dashy with the snipers. Insane for round 11. Just so perfect for how good both of them are with a sniper in hand. It was just such a fun map, man. Arklov is by far my favorite map in this game. It just creates for some awesome moments like that. Then after that, man, FaZe looked really good. Again, bro, Hackney Dom. FaZe, their Dom game in this tournament, they've been a little shaky on it in the past, but in this tournament, they looked dominant on Dom, of course, no pun intended. And then heading into the final hard point, Petro, FaZe clutched up those final few hills. They clutched up and made it happen to take home the title, or the championship, or whatever you want to call it nowadays, the trophy for CDL Florida. So it was an absolutely awesome tournament. We learned so much about so many teams, and the competitive nature of this CoD League has never been better. It is absolutely insane how close so many teams are, and like truly every weekend any team could win it. So I can't wait to see how this plays out down the road. Obviously, guys, we're gonna be breaking down so much more. This video has already gone on way too long. I mean, I can't stop talking, I guess. And we'll be talking about everything in the podcast tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. That'll come out in the afternoon, 4 or 5 Central Time probably. We got a lot of videos lined up, hoping to talk to you guys, and of course some Learn from the Pros coming later on in the week as well from this weekend. So as always, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, like, comment, favorite, subscribe. We're getting closer and closer to quarantine hat month. Hopefully I can get a haircut here soon. It needs to happen. But of course, as always, guys, I'm your boy Salvation's Elite, and we will see you next time. I'm out.